what you have to understand about this country, though, this country is a melting pot of everybody.
No, we a
It's a
specific people.
melting
That's
pot
the
of
problem.
everybody.
You don't think we a people, and that's.
I never said that.
You
What are you
said
talking about? I never said that.
everybody.
Don't put words in my mouth.
All
Don't
right,
put
go
words in
ahead.
my mouth.
You sound like you just tethered your cell phone, came on, agreed with this goofy Frank Zanu, and thought it was okay to discuss us in any capacity. I'm not going to Jamaica to discuss y'all. I'm not going to Africa to any of the countries to discuss
That's
them.
fair. You don't have to.
Stand with my people.
You don't have to.
If you find yourself amongst another group of people, I suggest you move respectfully. In the future, I don't think people gonna be taking that kindly, bro. It's bull.
No, you're just too emotional. Calm down. It's
just
not that.
It's conscious, not emotional.
I do think, though, a lot of the context is being lost from Zanu, and I guess his intent. You know, I hear the brother here saying that he believes that, you know, he was rage baiting. I don't think that. I think he was just having he was critically thinking. He has an opinion. He was on a panel with about like 4 or 5 other brothers, and they had a hard time articulating themselves to some of the questions. I think he brought up some very good questions, and I think, you know, we have to be careful not to put ourselves in any type of echo chamber, right? Because we can't grow that way. I think a lot of times when we have these conversations, they're very sensitive. People get triggered emotionally, or their ego gets involved, and they're unable to kind of hear what's actually being asked. Me personally, after listening to what he said, I don't agree with his definition of culture and how he defined it. At the same time, again, when you hear everybody on the panel and everyone's trying to really define what Black culture is, it's not that Black Americans don't contribute, or they're not trendsetters, or that the culture isn't copied and, or some people say cosplay or mimicked or shared amongst the world. It is. The issue isn't even that. From what I see, the problem is that there's no control over the culture, right? When you don't have control over your image, you don't have control over how things are put out, how things are interpreted. That's really the issue, right? The culture is pimped, right? And so if the culture is pimped, the question is, who's the pimp and who's the hose, right? And I think that's why there's so much confusion. His opinion is his opinion, right? Like, I think, like anything, we're all entitled to it. Then challenge, right? Then all you need to do is have your rebuttal explain. I think someone said it earlier. If someone, I think it was Lucky, shout out to Lucky, she made a statement and said, hey, if there's some confusion as to what our culture is, this is not the first time this has been going on. There's a reason why people say it. I think people aren't really articulating what they're actually seeing or what they're not seeing. I remember having this conversation before in the past, and again, what I've noticed is just the lack of control, right? When you don't have control of your image, you don't have control, you don't have power over the media on how your culture is actually presented on a world stage. That's a problem. It's a huge problem. There's a portion of us as Black people who are responsible for that, and there's a portion of that's responsible of white people, or people who are in control of some of these systems. At the same time, it doesn't mean that we can't fix these things either. It just means that we've relinquished so much of our power and things like that over to another group. You know, we can get into why that is, or how that came about, or why we're not changing that. But from what I understand, that's what I see. I think Zanu's, one of the things that he brought up that I agree with is worldview. And I think that goes for anybody, right? And I think that we define culture, but worldview is a separate thing. His opinion, he believes that a culture can't exist without a worldview. I don't agree with that. I think if you don't like what you see in a culture, it doesn't mean that the culture doesn't exist. I feel like that's where his argument is flawed. He could say, I don't like these attributes of Black American culture. Well, that's his opinion. That doesn't mean that the culture doesn't exist because you don't like certain elements of the culture. But Black American culture is very rich. It's very rich. I would say that it's a subculture of American culture, right? The culture broke away because of the racism, systemic racism, and oppressive tactics of white people during the time, is why Black culture segued away from American culture. But it is a subculture in America. So black culture is American culture is black culture. But though, to me personally, that's like a deeper layer to the conversation. I think that I haven't heard you guys really bring up. I just heard a lot of people being offended by certain things and not really diving into the nuance of the conversation. It's not shallow. I think what Zanu was talking about is something, he's talking to a different layer. He's speaking to a different layer. I think the way he may have articulated it didn't come off well, but if you listen to the interview in context, you'll start to understand him. For me, I understood what he was trying to say. I don't think he articulated it the best way because he believes that, I'm gonna tell you what I believe, but because he believes that a worldview is missing, that means that there cannot be a culture. My interpretation is, if a worldview is missing from a culture group, you have a difficult time defining and maintaining the discipline of what the culture is through forms of being consistent, right? Like the consistency is the issue. So when there's a lack of consistency and it's not replicated across homes, if I line up 10 black homes across the street and 10 Asian homes across the other, or Chinese, or we say Japanese, 90% of them are going to follow the same trajectory. They're going to do the same things. They're going to practice the same things. They're going to talk the same way. They're going to have the same purpose, the same drive. It's going to be very consistent, and it's going to be replicatable, right? So even if I have 10 houses here that are Asian, 10 houses over here across the street that are Black American, whether it's in Texas, California, New York, right? You always got to put that 10%, those people who are going to be off to the side. But for the most part, their culture is going to be consistent. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So I know Sweeney had put his hand up, and I think Marcus had wanted to respond. If y'all could condense it and we get OG in, y'all can get a little bit of a.
I'm gonna ask my question after Marcus.
Okay, Marcus.
Nathan, you're from an African country, right? Your people are from African country.
You said, are my people from an African country?
Yeah. Like, do you have an immigrant story at all in your background?
Do I have? No, both my parents are Jamaican.
Okay, so you immigrated to America.
No, I was born here.
Someone immigrated to America in your family, right?
Okay.
Do Jamaicans have a culture?
Yeah.
What's Jamaican culture?
Everything: music, entertainment, their morals, values, religion, their customs.
So if I went to Jamaica,
traditional definition of culture. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if I went to Jamaica and start saying that Jamaicans have no culture, would that be a disrespectful act, or am I furthering a conversation?
I think depending on the context of the conversation, yeah, you're going to have people who could take disrespect to it. But what I'm talking about is the context of the conversation, right? So if you have a person on a panel, you have people on a panel, and they agreed to have a conversation. Intellects decided to have a conversation, and one person is arguing his points and the other person's arguing their points. I don't see what the issue is. If their intellects having an intellectual, if the conversation was brought up in a college, at a university, I don't understand what the problem is. You can take offense to it, but it's a conversation.
You know, it's funny.
So as long as disrespect is from an academic lens, it's okay.
I didn't say that. What I'm saying is, if you have, just for example, if you have multiple people who come up on a panel and say, we're going to have a conversation about this, you're freely able to do that. Like, I don't understand what's the issue with them having a conversation.
You know what? You know why this is an issue? Because this feels like this is only something that's unique to us. I don't see anybody getting on a panel or going into a classroom or going on a stage and discussing whether Jamaicans have a culture or not. It's not something that happens to y'all. So I can see why you would sit here and be like, well, I think that might go down well, but it's never happened. It only seems like something that's been happening to us. People getting on the stage trying to have an intellectual conversation about whether we have a culture or not. That is extremely disrespectful because we know where it's coming from.
That's not. I don't know if that's completely accurate, Sweeney. You're saying that.
Tell me where else it has happened. Tell me where else it has happened where there was an academic, like people were actively asking about another group and whether they had a culture or not.
First generation Latinos deriving from their country, which is what I was going to say. A lot of times I believe our conversations happen this way. It's because we derive from here. Most of us can't truly source where we come from, tribal wise, or link it. And even if you could, you don't see that heavily represented in current day in this land. Most people who are here that are Black do not carry their tribal practices. So so that's why it's different. And it's like, I don't get why we live this existence and don't give credence to that.
So you're saying there are people in Africa talking about whether Africans in Africa have a culture?
No,
we don't. But
there are people in Jamaica having conversations about whether people in Jamaica have culture.
People have intellectual debates and discussions all the time about a multitude of different topics.
I'm asking.
Are you saying? I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're asking. What I'm about to ask you this though. Are you saying that you're aware of every single intellectual debate and conversation?
Because here's the thing.
But can you honestly say?
I'm gonna tell you this. I can honestly say I don't see it as publicly as I see ours.
Okay, but that's fine though.
And
that's still not relevant though to the conversation.
It's very relevant
because here we have them having an academic conversation about us, and it always seems like everybody wants to have a conversation about Black culture and whether it's there or not. Why don't you show me where? Because you're from Jamaica, your people are from Jamaica. Tell me where you've seen in Jamaica them having specifically outsiders coming in and trying to have a conversation about whether Jamaicans have a culture or not.
What you have to understand about this country, though, this country is a melting pot of everybody.
No, we are specific people.
That's
the problem. You don't think we are people, and that's.
I never said that. What are you talking about? I never said that. Don't put words in my mouth. Don't put words in my mouth. Here's the thing. You guys for whatever reason think that this country is just Black. It's not. All right, it's just not Black. You don't own this country. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. All right, that's not meant to be disrespectful. You do not own this country. This is a melting pot full of people. So back to what we're saying earlier, the issue.
How is that relevant?
You're trying to assume that you are aware of every single intellectual debate and conversation that's happened on a global stage, and you're not. So that's not even a strong. That's an emotional.
This is straight
that's an emotional argument. That's an emotional argument that you're making, and it's silly. It sounds silly.
Right. It sounds silly.
That's what you sound like. You sound like you just tethered yourself on, came on, agreed with this goofy Frank Zainu, and thought it was okay to discuss us in any capacity. I'm not going to Jamaica to discuss y'all. I'm not going to Africa to any of the countries to discuss them.
Fair. You don't have to
stand with my people.
You don't have to.
If you find yourself amongst another group of people, I suggest you move respectfully. In the future, I don't think people gonna be taking that shit kindly, bro. This is bullshit.
No, you're just too emotional. Calm down. It's not that deep.
He's conscious, not emotional.
No, it's emotional.
He's conscious, not emotional. There's a difference between the two. Good evening, everybody. Good evening, everybody.
It's very emotional.
Good to see you. It's good to see you. It's good to see the panel aware and awake. I usually disagree with Bo, but I think she's working on me a little bit. She's doing a great job. She came up with a lot of points tonight, and I don't want to reverse on that square. But let's just deal with something here.